The vast desert stretched endlessly under a pale blue sky, the wind kicking up dust that danced in the dry air. In the middle of this desolate terrain stood the old, deserted ramp, its wooden boards twisted and battered from years of neglect. Under the collapsed beams, darkness pooled like a lost secret. Rusted nails jutted out at weird angles. Though deep under its decaying façade, a mother had made a desperate decision. It was the last place anyone would think to discover life. She had given birth. For warmth, a dozen small, delicate life gathered against her. Their quiet whines were almost audible above the screaming desert wind. Their still damp birth fur offered little defense against the stinging cold of the evening. Their mother encircled them with her body, her ribs clearly rubbing against her skin, marks of her own struggles. But hunger, tiredness, and the merciless terrain meant nothing to her, not when her puppies needed her. Using the ramp's shadows as cover from the frigid desert temperatures as the sun sank, she had found refuge in the only area accessible to her. Nobody knew she was there for the first few days either. She stayed quiet, her protective instincts shielding her children. She hardly left their side, only going out when desperation drove her to hunt food leftovers. Every noise she heard set her heart pounding, every shadow a possible danger. She was a mother in survival mode, trying everything to safeguard the delicate life depending on her. Then she happened to be seen by chance by motocross racers making a video on the grounds. They originally gave it little thought. Not unusual in these areas was a stray dog prowling the open field searching for sustenance. Though hostile, desert species developed means of survival. Ignorant of the silent conflict just feet away, the bikers kept recording, their engines booming across the beach. 2 days later, when they got back, something had changed though. They heard it at that point, a chorus of little agonizing cries. One of the riders stopped mid-step and turned to face the sound. "Do you hear that?" he questioned, his voice slightly perplexed. His friend grimaced and listened closely. Clearly audible high-pitched wails carried by the wind. "Yeah, sounds like dogs." Their bolt of urgency came from the awareness. Puppies left here, totally exposed to the elements, wouldn't last very long. The evenings had been bitterly cold, the kind of cold that permeated your bones and transformed the desert into an icy wilderness. Not one house in the area, not even a clue of someone who might have been looking after them. This mother was alone. They looked at each other, their leisurely filming day suddenly subordinated to something far more vital. Their eyes searched the space for any movement. As they neared the ramp, the screaming got louder. Then, there she was. Under the wooden planks lay a skinny dog coated in mud, her golden brown fur tangled with dust and grime. Her body curled defensively about her litter, her dark eyes warily fixed on them. She was ready to protect her children with everything she had, even in her frail state. One of the bikers bent down and reached a hand warily. "Hey girl, it's good." She not snared. She refused to show her teeth. She just gazed, worn out and on edge, yet something in her eyes said more than words. She needed help. The motocross riders used their time wisely. One of them hurriedly took out his phone and looked through his contacts to identify the number of someone who might be of use. As the call connected, he exclaimed, "Hey, we found a stray dog." And she is not by herself. She already has puppies. Many of them. On the other side of the line, I paid close attention and felt my gut constrict with anxiety. Although I had rescued many animals in the past, this seemed different. One mother dog caught in the wilderness with almost 12 newborn puppies? That was life-threatening and not just unpleasant. "Where specifically are you?" Already gathering my coat, I asked. The rider reported their whereabouts, and I got right to planning. Not going to be simple, this was. The desert was large and merciless. If we delayed, the puppies might not make it through the evening. It was a complete journey just to get out there. The ground was uneven, the cold piercing through even the heaviest layers of apparel. It felt more secluded the longer we drove. All that stretched out to the horizon was seemingly limitless sand and scattered boulders. At last, we made it here. Already waiting and gesturing toward the ramp where the mother dog had sought cover were the riders. Before I ever saw the puppies, I could faintly hear them. Breathing deeply, I bent down close to the ramp and peered into the night under it. The mother's eyes gleamed back at me, wary, worn out, but not hostile. She was not seeking protection of her space. She seemed, if anything, as though she had been waiting for assistance. I moved deliberately, trying not to frighten the mother dog. Her body shaking from the cold, she was wrapped defensively around her puppies. The image pulled at my heart. She had done all she could to keep them warm, but out here, with the temperature decreasing and the wind roaring, it was insufficient. "Hey girl," I said, inching forward. "Here we are ready to assist." She did not back down or snarl. Rather, she raised her head slightly and fixed my exhausted eyes. She was cautious but not hostile, as though she realized we posed no threat. That was a good sign. I turned to look at the motocross riders. "We are going to need a strategy. We cannot simply grab the puppies and escape. She must come to believe us." One of the bike riders nodded. "What are we supposed to do?" I dug some goodies from my bag. Especially one that had been trying to survive, food was the easiest approach to build a dog's trust. I split off a little bit and threw it toward her. She remained still at first. She arched her neck forward, sniffed the air, then gingerly grabbed the reward after a few moments. "That's it, Mama," I said gently. "You're doing quite well." I kept giving her tiny morsels slowly, crawling closer every time. The cyclists remained silent but observed closely. Though it took time, finally, I was close enough to grab. I gave her options by letting my hand hover close by. She sniffed my fingers, hesitated briefly, then pushed her frigid nose into my palm. That was it. The instant I sensed we had her trust. Feeling the tension in her body begin to relax, I lightly scraped behind her ears. She was not battling for us. She needed assistance. It now came time to get her and her puppies to safety. The mother dog had welcomed me, so I focused on her puppies now. Their small bodies shivering against the cold, they were gathered under the old ramp. While some were asleep, their bellies rising and falling with gentle, steady breaths, others sent forth weak whiffs, their little screams hardly heard over the howling wind. Glancing back at the motocross routers, I remarked, "We need to get them out of here before the temperature drops any further." One of them bent next to me, peeping under the ramp. "There's a lot of them," he said quietly. "How are we going to get them all without frightening the mother?" I went for the kennel we had brought, gently laying it down close to the door. "We do things slowly," I said, "one by one." I turned back to check the mother dog. "It's okay, Mama. We will look after your babies." She studied me carefully, her ears flickering forward. I gently raised the first puppy, a small black and white ball of fur, between my hands. The small one yawned softly, cuddling against my fingers as though searching for warmth automatically. The mother stayed put, not moving to stop me. She just kept staring, trust mixed with tired eyes. I took one puppy at a time, gently arranging them in the kennel covered with soft blankets. While some wriggled and others nuzzled their siblings, none objected very strongly. They were weak. Their small bodies needed warmth and food. The mother dog let out a quiet whine as I reached for the last puppy, a particularly little one with a brown stripe on its forehead. I stood still. She bowed her head and pushed the puppy toward me as though she was saying, "Take care of them." My throat grew tight. "I promise," I said, softly raising the final pup and setting it in the kennel among the others. With her legs wobbly from the cold, the mother dog got slowly upright. She obviously was tired, but she didn't object as I gently led her toward the vehicle. "She is joining us," I said. "We are not leaving her behind." Helping me bring the kennel to the car, the motocross riders ensured the puppies were warm and safe. I released some relief when I closed the door. That was the toughest part, and it was now over. They seemed safe. Their trip was far from done, though. I inhaled deeply and peered in the rearview mirror as the mother dog and her puppies were securely piled inside the car. With tired eyes, the mother curved defensively about her litter. She had experienced so much, yet she stayed cool. She seemed to know we came here to assist. The motocross riders watched as we were ready to depart. A tall man with a scuffed beard tapped on the glass among them. "Let us know how she does, okay?" I nodded. "I shall. I appreciate you getting in touch. Had you not, one wonders what would have happened." He saluted me quickly, then backed off. I then turned on the engine and left the improvised refuge the mother had constructed under the ramp. Apart from the occasional whimper from the puppies, the drive back was silence. The road ran for kilometres, the desert gradually yielding to civilization. I kept peering at the mother dog in the rear seat, seeing how she laid her head on the edge of the kennel, her eyes straying between me and her children. "You're secure now, Mama," I whispered. About 1 hour into the trip, I phoned a friend whose mother was from Newfoundland and had her own litter. "We are on our way," I said to her. 10 puppies plus their mother. Though hungry and frigid, they will be okay. "That's great," she remarked. "I am ready for them, with everything. Just bring them over." Her voice expressed relief that reflected mine. My buddy Louise was outside waiting when we at last arrived. She had converted her garage into a cozy, comfortable area complete with food bowls, heat lights, and blankets. The mother dog raised her head, sniffing the air, the instant I opened the car door. She remained cautious, but the dog sighed deeply and got out of the car when Louise knelt next her and spoke kind promises. "Welcome home, Mama," Louise said quietly. Taking the puppies softly inside, I placed them in a heated, soft pen. Their small bodies cuddled together, their little noses twitching as they breathed the aroma of warmth and security. Then arrived the moment of truth, introducing them to the gentle giant Pretzel, the mother from Newfoundland. Louise knelt next to the already lying Newfoundland, her enormous paws outstretched. The mother dog paused for a bit, then warily moved forward. Pretzel just blinked at her, then let out a low, friendly whimper. In that instant, something amazing occurred. Pretzel was smelled by the mother dog, then she settled down gently next to her, as though she had known all along. Louise said in wonder, "She's accepting her." And a new family was created exactly like that. The puppies became stronger as the weeks went by. Their small paws no longer staggered, but instead raced across the floor with unbounded enthusiasm. Pretzel never wavers in her patience as she nursed them by her own garbage. More than that, though, the mother dog, who had earlier been so cautious, so reluctant to trust, started to change right in front of us. She was thriving, not only surviving now. Gone was the nervous, hungry dog we had discovered under that deserted ramp in the cold desert. Her replacement was a confident, loving mother who at last knew what it meant to be safe. She sought out mild pets, wagged her tail more frequently, and even started play with her puppies. She leaned into every touch, every sweet remark instead of keeping her distance, as if making up all the love she had missed previously. She no longer cringed at abrupt motions. The young ones found their permanent residences one by one. Families showed in, their eyes ablaze as they grabbed up the pliable, energetic dogs. Though every farewell was sad, knowing they would be in loving homes helped. Certain families even promised to send pictures, and I knew that these puppies would always own a piece of my heart, no matter how far they travelled. But something quite unexpected occurred. Although the puppies were adopted fast, their mother attracted even more interest. "She's just special," one family said after her. "She sees wisdom in those eyes." And that was also accurate. She was among the canines that have an old soul, a gentle awareness that attracts people in. She had gone through so much, yet she exuded grace and seemed to know that this second opportunity at life was something to treasure. The day she was at last adopted, she seemed to know what was occurring. She greeted her new owners with sparkling eyes and a wagging tail, unlike the doubtful, terrified dog she had once been. Only trust. There was no doubt or anxiety. She did something I will never forget, though, before she went. She leaned in near and rested her head against my chest as I crouched down to bid farewell. It was a thanks, not simply a token gesture. Her warm body crushed in on me, her breathing steady and quiet. She lingered there for a protracted period as though she knew this was our last time together. Her tail wagging behind her, she licked my fingers softly before trotting toward her new family at last, pulling away. She hesitated then, just as she arrived at the automobile. Turning back one more time, she locked eyes with me and seemed to be looking for something I could only characterize as thanks. She sounded to be saying, "I remember. I won't forget." Though these were not sad tears, tears started to well in my eyes. Tears of affection, of thanks, of knowledge that this dog, who had been lost and alone in the chilly desert, was at last home. I grinned across my tears as she drove off. She had wailed for aid in the wilderness. She was also crying with delight right now.